I am not a real big fan of New York media's social experiment. And the legacy of film and letters, no doubt thought went into it from minds familiar with Stanley Kaufman's essay on the Purple Rose of Cairo, people who knew what The Last Temptation was about, The Truman Show, Louis Lapham's comment that somebody knows everybody except everybody, meaning everybody in media was aware of him, but the people on the ground seemed to shun him. The reason I call this experiment, and I'm not a fan of it, is that it's not just injurious in the sense that terrible crimes have happened, but it's libelous and it's rooted in false premises and brazen falsehoods, which the manufacturers admit they call plastic reality. Greg Carl describes constructing a persona, and the persona that was constructed of me as a deaf man was something that my deaf friend, my first deaf friend, the girl who taught me sign language, Jeannie, noted. It said these people are making fun of you because you're deaf. I was sort of casually acquainted with the way I'd been demoted because of my deafness and subjected to things were not very nice. So I've lost a lot of patience for past interests. But when you're a hapless person the way I was, you cross invisible lines haplessly. I don't mean that in the sense of having boundary problems, as Schulman put it and Gabriel's hirelings promoted. The forces impinging on the persona's experiences were not detected by the insensitive deaf man. To put it in the kind of skillful language about this construction of a persona, which amounted to putting me places I'd never been, doing things I hadn't done, and so on, then punishing me for that. Fabricating a lot of stuff, saying, well, we all agreed to do that, and then networking a little, orchestra about it. Well, the fact that they wrote about it is brazen. You have people like Lisa Miles saying, that's bullshit. It's not bullshit. They wrote about it. So you are what they say you are, she says, and you can't wriggle out of it. Person should, that's Oliver Stone's take on it too. And Lisa Miles was LAM, Lennon and McCartney played violin. I, Siciliani Vespa, she was a silent girl. And the Dory shows up to really kick my head in, hitting me in a neuroplasm that they had implanted. I knew was there, I knew I did. Talk about forces impinging on the persona's experience, Mr. Carl. Wadmaker did that. Well, it soured me on old stories that you can get from people who knew. I mean, Thaw's Hale put one of the stories in a book. We can bicker about how close it came to what really happened, but it captured the spirit of the way we used to talk about the things we did relatively admirably. I don't mean to sour on Ray as a person. I'm just saying I soured on everybody. I haven't talked about anybody for years. But Ray was a lovable child. I met him at the governor's school and picked up with him in Tyler Art School. I recognized him right away. He didn't seem to recognize me until I reminded him, but we lived together off and on. He went away to the army, came back. You know, I mean, we lived together off and on for 20 years. I mean, that's a long time. It's as long as I've been in Seattle now, Seattle area. When he passed away, I was broken, but you know, it's hard to explain. You know, Raymond, my friend Raymond's gone. I mean, it was horrible for me. My mirror melted, but the retards say it's not sincere when I love somebody from Pittsburgh. The retards impinge on the persona every which way from Sunday. Anyway, he did beautiful paintings. You know, he threw one away. I rescued it. It fell into the hands of the perpetrators of the confiscation system. In my Bacchus book, which was for Stuart Shepard, if that thing ever shows up at the University of Iowa Library, give that Bacchus book to Stuart Shepard. Not that I want anything to do with him, but that's who it was for. I worked on it for years. The Martha Gellhorn letter I would take back, but I'm sure it's in somebody's chumpy two hands, unless they were too stupid to realize how important it was. Threw it away or something. But you know, I was finding myself in the company of Linus Pauling and Peter Ustinov, which was exciting fun. You know, big university town. I wish I'd gotten a chance to meet Buckminster Fuller or hear him talk, but I read his books phonetically. You know, Raymond was always tuning in to channel James Curry to hear what I had to say about this kind of stuff and laughing and laughing. We always laugh. Yeah. Fudgy, the girl was Fudgy, you know, the ringleader of the Fudgy, she used to say it was like we were in pain. We laughed so hard. He, I never really saw the materialist way that the retards do. You know, they come loping for dollars about this stuff. I mean, he was just a kid who I admired, wanted to help out. You know, he was a good man from Uncle Sam. He seemed from out in the boonies. You know, somebody who couldn't tell that people were giving him a hard time because they were jealous of him. He was talented. He couldn't tell that. It upset him. Made me laugh because I could tell. Yeah, the very Reverend Citizen Raymond Geiger Jr. I met his folks. They were lovely people. Sister and stuff. Smart people, you know. They were a little bit hard. We're in the German intelligence stuff. But as an article of faith, when Raymond was involved, I went along with whatever it was because he was a lovely human being. He was really very good at what he did. And I introduced him to a lot of people who really liked him. You know, they shooed me the whole way, but they really liked him. I don't blame them. You know, I mean, I didn't care to be burying the family secrets of that skeleton closet they call Pittsburgh. And Raymond stuck up for me a little bit about it, you know, because he was not a really stupid person. He just was sort of roughneck from the woods, you know, so he doesn't. I try not to suspect him of anything, you know. He was heard me out about what happened, said it's really hell, James. I mean, I'm sorry that happened. Which was rare. Most people would laugh and say that didn't happen. You're a fucking liar, Craig. So, but it wasn't the dominant fact of our friendship at all. You know, that's one of the reasons I was such an easy mark was because I was, you know, friends of somebody who we could do other things. You know, most people would say, "Oh, if that happened, why didn't you go off and kill them?" That's what Larry Chris said to me. I would have killed them. I had better things to do, rake the coals. It took me a while to realize that they might have hurt somebody else, but realized that they really hurt a lot of other people. At which point I became fighting mad, and I didn't want to speak to anybody, much less somebody who put it off as a half truth. But because of that schism with the mechanics, Raymond didn't tell me when he got sick. I don't know how to explain it to myself. I think he just decided it would be easier to let me go, and he didn't want to deal with the emotional intensity of it. But he had a lot of people around him who had prevailed on him that I was just, incompetent with things like that. So just cut James off. We'll take care of you. And they did what I understand to be a reasonably good job of shoring him up. I hear he was in pretty good morale was when he closed his eyes the last time. He was in pretty good shape, morale was. So I'm grateful to them as someone who did in fact care a lot about him. I remember when he painted that really big brown shoe. It was in the upstairs, the second floor of Presidential, I guess it was. You know, I ran into Chris Wazel on the first floor one time. She got back from Italy. She actually tried to talk to me. It's the first time she ever showed me any interest, and I was so stunned I just backed away. Yeah. But he was up there till 2, 3 in the morning painting that big brown shoe. I remember. Some of the better stories I sort of keep to myself. I mean, but thoughts are certain. He comes in 5 in the morning, deep snow day. James, you got to get up. It's like, where you been, man? And he's like, get up, get up. I got to show you something. So we trek off to school through 12 inches of snow. And he opens this gate to the sculpture studio. He says, well, what do you think? I was like, well, what are you talking about? And he says, that. And I said, what? And then suddenly I realized I was looking, everything I was looking at was what he was talking about. It was just this huge, weird Spanish galleon or something, all hooked up on cables and a chassis and a garbage can all suspended in space. He gets up on it and rattles it and stuff. He said they was all accusing him of stealing their stuff to make it. It was drilled through this long wooden bench that kept it, from falling. He evidently got in his truck and went out to Pennsylvania Dutch Company garbage, what do they call them, junkyard. Got some stuff, welded it all together into this mystery balance act. Now he do things like that, Fudgy comes complaining. I mean, he comes in, he boiling mad, she washed my mirrors. Nobody would wash them. She did. She washed my. Nobody did wash your mirror. I go over to see Fudgy. So, because we talk for a while and stuff every evening when we were free, neighborly. I mentioned, she's like, that piece of shit. You know what he did? He poured a gallon of gesso on the floor and I had to clean it up. That was really a scream. I mean, but she had led, the romper room of people who were getting on him for antique style and stuff. I remember when he did all those cards and that. He'd paint till 4 in the morning, He'd just sit and study what he was doing. He was good at what he did. I learned concentration, I think, from Howard Lieberman more than from Ray. What I learned from Ray was Howard Lieberman could really concentrate. But I learned an aptitude for fishing through critical remarks to find the ones that hit home from Roger Handlicker, who was one of Ray's teachers. But what I learned from Ray mostly was prepping the painting and the dimensions. He would work big. This is something I had never considered before. I didn't usually paint. I like poetry much, much, much better. But I would draw texture things. He would sort of laugh at me for texturing things. But Chris Wadsell liked what she saw of my texturing technique. She was very encouraging about that. But her roommate, Hannah Berger, saw me through glass darkly. I mean, when I made that movie ever, I couldn't bring myself to show it. I was so shy about it. So it probably would have changed Hannah's opinion of me. I remember how much Hannah Berger didn't like me. But there was a tendency of people to play behind my back. And one of Greg Carl's confederates was at that school, Tyler Art School, Michael McGarvey. He's a gangster in the Gutter Snipes, they called themselves. His brother Richard wrote that the whole thing was a lifelong cradle to grave experiment. They put the persona in a gaseous paint chamber. I've said many times these people tortured and gassed me in Kansas State. And he comes right out and says, put the persona in a gaseous paint chamber. And they have these LAM idiots saying, no, it didn't happen. You know, and waltzing Matilda comes pirouetting from England and Germany saying, my name is Robert Fripp and I have sacred powers of perceptio. And I can insightfully penetrate all this. And when I know what was going on was that the fascists were right to impose premature sex on a nearly lobotomized golem in traumacosis condition from serial beatings and slaughtering blows to the head, and then make a laugh about it on Citizens Band. Knock, 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 knock. So, I mean, it wasn't really pretty in that way. But Ray had a good heart, and I knew how lonely he was, as my mother said, when my girl I was with, made off with him. I was pleased. I mean, he broke it to me. Came over about, I guess, 4 in the morning, said, I want to take you out for breakfast. I said, sure, sure. And he told me he'd fallen in love and that the girl was the girl who I'd had an emotional breakup with. And I just said, that's cool, Ray. Don't worry about it. I was cool with it. She wouldn't let him see me at all. But I mean, for a long time, he wouldn't talk to me. But he was too good of a friend for me to care about that. Yeah, I don't remember that it hurt me, but it probably hurt. I mean, but blah 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 blah. I mean, I've hurt him emotionally with girls and stuff, being negligent of his feelings or will in the matter of girls who were fishing around for people and stuff. But I don't make too much of it, to be honest. She was generous enough to um, put a memory of me in the film she made memorializing him. And I think that even the berzoid individuals in the Pittsburgh region who knew of our friendship recognized that it was sincere. It's hard to deny that there was a capture of energy that made it a remarkable thing. I mean, when I look back on my life, I can certainly say to myself, I had a best friend and thoroughly enjoyed it. Jeannie became my closest friend. But the two of them and me would get along great. I mean, it was a trio for a while. It's unforgettable. We'd go down to the river. I can still see her turning her back and Raven saying she's beautiful. That was a wonderful moment in my life. God, there were so many things that we did, so many laughs. I don't appreciate him bringing it up. Don't bring that up with me.